The NRG Podcast showcases industry leaders who share universal truths and lessons learned for those looking to gain inspiration, motivation, and game-changing information. Now, here's your host, Nick Roshdi.
Hello and welcome, everyone. Thank you again for listening in to this episode of the NRG Podcast. Thank you, Paul, our studio engineer.
I just look forward to the, what does your intro say there? The insights and information and strategies for success.
That's right, Paul.
We were laughing about one beforehand, but...
Glad you remembered. I would like to introduce my guest, Paula Steurer. Welcome, Paula.
Hello, hello. I am back in the studio today, and Nick's going to be on the hot seat here in a few seconds, so
I hope
can't
you put
wait.
it to him here, Paula, because...
without a doubt.
You know, Nick is a different guy off the air. When out on the air, he's all business. Off the air, he is definitely a...
The magic happens before we even start the show, people.
I think that's the way to say it. Exactly.
All right, I'm back in the hot seat, and Paula is going to be interviewing me on this episode of our podcast. So without further ado, Paula, please take it over.
I love to take it over. So, guys, I'm back today here with Nick, and we have a very special set of topics to go over today, and one that's really close to our hearts, and I'm sure it's close to a lot of our listeners' hearts as well. We're talking about the art of giving thanks and how to lead a thankful life to attract prosperity. And, you know, we often talk about living with an attitude of gratitude and an outlook filled with thankfulness that paves a way for prosperity. But the real question is, how do we do it? We wake up every morning, we're inundated with news that's more often than not focused on tragedies and challenges across the globe. We all have things we need to navigate daily, both personally and professionally, that can sour our outlook. But none of us are immune. We've all got a lot going on. And just like proper etiquette, I believe there's an art to giving thanks. So, Nick, I'd love to get your perspective in general on why leading with thankfulness attracts prosperity.
So, back when I was in my early 20s, I was in a really bad motorcycle accident, and I was laid up in a hospital and had broken sternum, damaged heart, all kinds of things were wrong with me, and I was basically a hair away from passing on. And as I was laying there in my hospital bed, and the doctor was telling my parents that they didn't know if I was going to make it or not, and I could hear all this, I kind of closed my eyes, and it made me realize, oh my God, I can't even breathe, because every time I took a breath, it felt like a truck was sitting on my chest. So that point in my life really, it was one of the best things that happened to me, because it made me really realize how everything that we have, we're blessed to have, like breathing, moving, walking, sight, hearing, touching, feeling. All those things we take for granted can be taken away from us in a split second, and and we don't really appreciate it till it's gone. So that moment was one of the first defining moments in my life, when I realized how everything we do matters, and how that just breathing alone that we do naturally, that we're not even conscious of, it's such a big deal. So that was the first moment in my life that I was grateful to be able to breathe without having pain, being able to walk, being able to just laugh and do things and move around without being carried, and that's when it all begun. And as life progressed, as life started happening to me, I interacted with, I realized that, we're all connected, we're all one, we're all energy, everything is energy. And when we give, act of giving is really what it puts out abundance for us, because it means that we have, we have so much to give. And I started really kind of just putting myself out there to do whatever I could to help anyone, whether if it was help, giving somebody, letting them borrow money, giving them a helping hand to move, whatever it was. I started, doing that, and by doing that, it made me feel good about myself, that I was doing something that was making me feel good by helping someone else. And lo and behold, time passed on, and I realized I was living this life of fulfillment, because I was helping people as much as I could, and good things were starting to happen to me. And I was fortunate enough to see it not as a coincidence, but as a way that the universe works because of the books I was reading. So I was literally noticing that when I was doing good things were happening to me in a much bigger light than I even expected it to. So I saw how the universe is so connected and how it works. So I continued doing it and build my life based on that.
It's interesting, right? Oftentimes the universe will disrupt our entire life to talk to us, to teach us the lessons we need. And some me that prior to that accident, which I didn't realize you had, that's a crazy story, that perhaps you weren't living life maybe the way life intended you to live it. And it sounds like there was some significant shifts that happened after that accident, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was a typical young guy. I was, playing sports. I was a good athlete, like a cool kid in the neighborhood, and just living life like I was invincible, and nothing could touch me, and nothing could go wrong. And boy, that accident, it was very humbling. It grounded me. I went from 220 pounds to 160 pounds, from internal bleeding. I couldn't eat. I couldn't drink water for weeks.
Gosh.
So it was really something to see yourself kind of, be stripped away of your ego, of your health, of everything, and having to regain all that back. But I was able to fortunately turn it into, a big positive in my life, and use it as a stepping stone to step up to be a man at that point in my life.
What also shows you, I think, or rather it puts time in perspective, right? Because a lot of people just take time for granted. They just think they automatically get another 24 hours. We're gifted 24 hours. We're not getting 24 hours. And when you look at that as a gift, I think you approach life totally differently.
100%. There's a book, it's called Here and Now. And 95% of us live either in the past or in the future and not in the today. So I do the same thing a lot of times, but I'm very mindful that I live in the moment, that I'm not, having any kind of thoughts or regrets over the past. Past is a history, it's a story, and the future is not here, so it doesn't exist. So, it's important to live in the moment with gratitude and with no regrets, and really come from our highest self to be able to be the best we can, and also help as many people as we can.
I want to break this down into work perspective and a personal perspective, just so that way we can, share some building blocks, if you will, for our listeners to learn to incorporate this into their lives. So from a work perspective, how do you lead a thankful life with your team and with your vendors? And how does that help foster community and prosperity?
It's a great question. So I remember I was at a luxury real estate agent panel, and I was speaking to a group of, about 200 plus realtors at Pelican Resort. And, I was getting asked a lot of questions by real estate agents, and I was, asking me what I do, how I do what I do. And I was, basically opening up the manual to my business and sharing everything I do with them, what softwares I use, everything, basically my entire daily routine. And I never forget this one nice lady stood up and she said, "Can I ask you a question?" I said, "Of course." She said, "How come you're telling us all this? How come you're sharing all this with us?" I said, "Well," that's a good question. I said, "Because nothing will make me happier to know that if I was able to, be a shining light in any of your businesses, and I was able to help you succeed." I said, we're all connected. If you don't do business, there's not going to be business for me to do. So I feel like the least I can do is help as many of you as I can. And let's face it, why are we here? Why are you here listening to me? You're not here to listen to me to not tell you what I do, and that's why we're all here. So to me, I've always been an open book. I've always helped as many people as I can, but I've also learned to always be a giver, but to give to people who are also givers, because there are people who are takers only, and there are people who are givers. And people who are givers, it gets reciprocated, and it comes back, not necessarily to me, but, I'm able to help someone and they help someone else. And for example, the other day, I was giving some advice to someone that's in my team, and this lady that's a trainer in our gym, she was talking to me, and she told me basically the advice I was giving to this gentleman on my team. He gave her the same advice, and she shared with me that how he told her that and how much it helped her. So she didn't know that I told him that, but it really kind of made my heart happy because, you see the fruits of your good words to go out there to use, and it's helping people to become a better version of themselves. So to me, that's worth more than any amount of money.
Right. It's so true. And you said something that I find really interesting. And I've had this same question asked to me before, where I've been in a situation where maybe I'm listing certain vendors I use or processes I go through, and people, to your point, will ask, well, why are you sharing this? But really, those are just systems. The secret lies in the execution. And really what people, I think, need to take from is the person who's actually executing it. How are they doing it? How are they speaking? How are they building that relationship? Because anybody can push a button and follow a process, but the way it's executed is completely different. And that's the difference between success and failure oftentimes, right?
Absolutely. It's all about taking action and implementation. People get excited. You can go to a motivational seminar, and pretty much I would say 97% of people that will attend it will all get excited. But excitement and motivation to take action and execution are completely two different things. Excitement lasts a very short while. It's like a shooting star. It's like running a sprint versus, execution and taking action is like running a marathon. It's something you have to have the discipline to do every day, every night, every day, every week, every month, over and over again to be able to achieve your goal.
Well, and you mentioned the word discipline, which we've talked about before. And to really lead a thankful life and attract prosperity, it takes discipline. It's a chosen mindset every single day, not something you just do once in a while. Absolutely.
It does. And, for me, for example, it's funny because like today I didn't work out. It was my day off, but I was up at 3:30 anyways, walking around the house. That's just a discipline of getting up early. But because I had that discipline, I didn't get up and go to the gym because it was my day off. But I got a lot of things, a lot of personal tasks done before 6 o'clock in the morning that there's no way I have time to do it during the day. So discipline really kind of trickles down and, in many different facets of life. And not only that, but it also, is a good example for others when they see you having really good discipline. They look up to that because let's face it, for most people, discipline, is not very easy. So when they see someone they're good friends with or a family member that has good discipline and they're putting it towards a good cause, again, it's leading by example for them, and they look up to that, and it does, motivate other people to want to follow suit.
Mm-hmm. I want to shift gears here a little bit and talk about this from a personal perspective. And I'm sure everyone listening can relate to this, but I think it's an important point, right? So when it comes to leading a life full of things with your wife and with your children, how do you do that to be an ultimate partner in life? Because one thing that I've seen from you, knowing you from several years and that I respect so much, is you are always so thankful and grateful for all Fatih does for you and your family, even though little ones can be hard and child rearing is an adventure. I know that you're so thankful and grateful for your girls. So how do you do that? Because so many people take relationships for granted over 3, 5, 6, 7, 10 years, and all of a sudden they've changed because they're not thankful for this amazing person that they have. They're used to it. And I feel like that's so unfortunate.
Yeah, well, my wife and I we're both blessed because we're both growing in life together. So, we've been married for about 13 years now, and we're more in love now than we were 13 years ago. So, we've matured together, we've grown together, we've gone through ups and downs in life together, but we always stuck by each other's side. I don't know how she does what she does, to be honest with you. Our daughters are amazing, but our little girl is just an absolute pistol. Yeah, I mean, I always tell my wife, I go, God, I'm glad, you're the mom, because there's no way I could do what you do for even 2 days. So, we're just blessed. We have an amazing marriage. We're best friends. We share our thoughts together. We grow together. We read the same books. And we communicate a lot. Communication is the key to any successful relationship, whether if it's marriage, business relationship, whatever it is. So we always have an open dialogue, even with our children. So, it's important for us to have that family dynamic together. And for us, family always comes first. And everything else, comes second. So I never take my eye off the ball with regards to what's important to me. And that's been, our winning formula. And it's just been an amazing ride.
Mm-hmm. And you're always so good about having dedicated family time and time with your wife outside of all the other things that you're managing, which is amazing. And it's year after year. But you also said a few things that I thought were important. You were talking about having the same outlook on life and growing together. And when we get back from the break, we are going to talk about those things for our listeners. Stay tuned.
We know you rely on your CRM system, and it's usually a love-hate relationship. Most CRM systems, well, let's face it, they're expensive. They're hard to understand. People don't use them properly. And you're probably paying for features that you don't even want. If that's your case, then maybe it's time to simplify. It's time to get more from your CRM. Why don't you go back to the original? Trust Goldmine. We helped pioneer the industry, after all. Goldmine CRM is, well, it's simple, it's affordable, and it's proven. If all those sound appealing to you, if you're just tired of the CRM headaches that you're getting from trying to implement something that's just too complicated, too expensive, and too much for you to figure out, then why not go back to the original? Visit Goldmine today, goldmine.com.
When you use the Premier Rewards Gold Card from American Express, the rewards points can keep on multiplying. Buy 3 with triple points on airfare. Buy 2 with double points on gas and groceries. And a single point for pretty much every other dollar you spend on the card. Then, start choosing from over 1 million rewards to redeem all those points. Apply today and the annual fee for the first year is on us. Call 1-800-AXP-GOLD or visit axpgold.com. The annual fee for the card is $175. See terms, conditions, and restrictions at axpgold.com.
Okay, we are back from the break, and I want to pick up where we left off. So, Nick, when it comes to creating a life full of thankfulness with your family unit, your wife and your kids, I think one thing that's important in any relationship, right, is you look at life the same, you approach things the same, you share core values, and I know that you and your partner definitely do. What are some things you've done to grow together over time? I know you mentioned reading books, but are there certain books you read? Are there certain rituals that you guys have, or things that you just do? I mean, what's that like?
So, here's one thing we do that's special and will always be remembered by, me, my wife, and each one of my daughters, even one day when we're not around, they're older with their own families. So, when I take my oldest daughter to school, in the mornings, we all, me, my wife, my oldest and youngest daughter, we all kind of hug each other together as a group, and we all say we are best friends. We are best friends.
Aww,
yes.
I love that. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so we do that, in the mornings before before my oldest Anissa and I take off to take her to school. So that's just such a good way to start our day. And then when I'm taking my oldest to school, we say 5 things we're thankful and grateful for the day, and in the evening as well, we all say a prayer together as all 4 of us for our family, to be blessed, that and how thankful we are to have each other. We're healthy, have a roof over our head, we're able to help other people any way we can. My wife is a big, as you know, advocate for animals.
Yes.
To be able to help animals, homeless animals, and everything else in between. So it's all about gratitude and being thankful, but most importantly to lead by example. My daughters are just they're everything to us. So we do our absolute best to teach them what life is about, to teach them what it means to be blessed. In Christmas time, usually we make, these little bags, and I go to Skid Row and we pass out, bags to the homeless, with a toothbrush, toothpick, deodorant, whatever in there to help other people and see them, just to see their faces light up. That to me is more of a Christmas present for my children than them getting a gift. Mm-hmm. Is to help others and see the effect of it, because it really makes them connected and grounded, which is what's important. So, it's all about raising our family up the right way to be the best we can.
Well, and modeling the behavior is huge, right? You can tell children one thing, but to model the behavior and actually get them involved in it, that's where they're actually going to remember it. That's what's going to make them embody that same behavior moving forward. And I think that's so cool, all those different things that you do, especially with the little ones. It's so important. And they're such bright girls, and I know when they grow up, they definitely will each be forces to be reckoned with. So I want to talk about, 3 simple steps that someone can take to shift into living a life full of thankfulness. If there were 3 things that our listeners could do right now to create change, what would they be? What are those 3 steps?
To recognize that we are, to recognize that they're not their mind, they're not their body. They're just basically their spirit inside their body, experiencing this life through their body and having thoughts through their brain, basically. So when they recognize that, and they recognize that their thoughts are basically like data coming across and passing through, that it's really not them, then they're able, then we're able to separate ourselves from our thoughts. So that way, we're not worried about these crazy negative thoughts that comes to all of our minds, right? And goes between our ears, and then we get worried, we have anxiety, depression, all these things. And to just live in a moment, that's really, to me, living at our highest self, because oftentimes people fall in a pattern of having negative thoughts because they watch something, because they're around people that may be having a certain conversation, and they just go down what I call down that rabbit hole, and then there goes the rest of the story. So to be grounded and to be centered and to realize that it's nothing they have to work towards. They're already there. Their soul, their spirit is already perfect, and to recognize that and not seek for that out somewhere in the clouds, and recognizing that it's already here, it's within them, and just living a life of prosperity, and not necessarily prosperity, not meaning being rich, but just being spiritually rich, of having worry-free life, thoughts, and just be blessed that they're alive and they're living in the moment, and they're able to be who they are, and hopefully be able to help others do the same.
Mm-hmm. Such great points. And one thing you said that I find interesting, I've said oftentimes, is you'll be out talking to someone and they'll say, "Gosh, I had such a bad day." And when you listen to them talk at the end, you go, "Did you really have a bad day, or did you have a bad 5 minutes and you allowed that to ruin the rest of your day?" Right? Oftentimes it's not a bad day. It was a bad few minutes that people just chose to allow their mind to run away with, and it destroys other moments, and thus they're not present, like you said. So
absolutely. People sometimes, are just, in my opinion, too hard on themselves. They just need to recognize there's no bad days, right? Everything happens for a reason, and there's always a silver lining in everything.
Mm-hmm. It's so true, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think, I've enjoyed once again being in the studio with you here today, Nick, and hopefully you'll have me back in the future. If anybody or any of our listeners would like to learn more about me or get in touch, you can go to sterlingpublicrelations.com or follow me on Instagram at sterlingpr.
Thank you, everyone, for attending this episode of the NRG Podcast. Have a blessed day, and we'll talk to you soon.
Stay tuned for the next NRG Podcast episode, live every Thursday at 2 p.m. on OC Talk Radio. Follow host Nick Roshdi on Instagram and visit nickroshdygroup.com to explore his real estate endeavors. Interested in being a guest on the show? Message Nick on Facebook.